is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I guess he's not an incel, but he reminds me of an incel. But
I wouldn't be shocked if he wasn't. He's one of these podcasters, and I was going to say, you ever talk to somebody and they say something like, you're not allowed to say that anymore? Like, oh, you wouldn't get away with saying that, if you said something today, you'd say back in the old days, something was said, you'd say you'd never be able to say that anymore, because
right.
they're almost saying it like, I'm not allowed to be an asshole anymore. I'm not allowed to say racist things anymore. I'm not allowed to say misogynistic things anymore. And they're turning it into this woke thing.
Right.
But on the opposite side, there's a lot of things that you are allowed to say, it appears, that can make you millions of dollars. I want to read to you what Charlie Kirk just recently said.
Oh.
And this is in regards to the Supreme Court case that overturned affirmative action for college admissions.
Oh, boy.
He said 3 weeks ago, if we would have said that Joy Reid and Michelle Obama and Sheila Jackson Lee and Ketanji Brown Jackson were affirmative action picks, we would have been called racist. But now they're coming out and they're saying it for us. They're coming out and they're saying, I'm only here because of affirmative action. Yeah, we know. You do not have the brain processing power to otherwise be taken really seriously. He added, you had to go steal a white person's slot to be taken somewhat seriously. And then he finishes it up with, it's very obvious to us that you were not smart enough to be able to get in on your own. Lana, what do you think?
Like, what?
Mm-hmm.
What is any of that word salad? So,
by the way, real quick before you finish your thought, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm going to go back and look, I think Charlie Kirk was a college dropout.
Right, like whose slot did Ketanji fill? Because what? Like, what is he talking about? Like, I don't even know what any of that meant. He's saying like they're hypocrites because now they're saying like affirmative action helped me, but affirmative action doesn't help me. Like, is that because he doesn't understand what affirmative action is? Because affirmative action doesn't even mean black. Like, that doesn't mean black.
Correct.
Because right now the legacy students are getting affirmative action.
Correct.
Affirmative action. It's helping them. Like, so what are we talking about right now? Like when we're talking about affirmative action, and by the way, white women,
yep,
affirmative action.
I was just about to say, actually, white women have benefited more
yes,
from affirmative action than any other group.
Absolutely, because black people are still not able to get these slots. And then it's like, and of course, Charlie Kirk would say this if he's dropped out, because they don't understand the whole process of even being admitted in college or Harvard. Like, if 40% is going to legacy, that means that there's only 60% left. It's not 60% of people in Massachusetts. It's not 60% of people in Florida. It's not even 60% of slots left for the United States. You're talking about in the world, right? So like out of the world, it's not just picking people from the United States. They're getting people from all walks of life. Like, so there are only a limited number of slots, and black people, even though they are qualified, are still not getting the slots, but affirmative action is helping them get 2 of the slots.
When we talk about the legacy, the other thing about the legacy admissions, and if anybody doesn't know what the legacy admissions is, it's basically anybody that gets admitted to a university based on who their dad was, their grandfather, their grandfather's grandfather, or maybe how much money they have donated to the college. Makes it a little easier for you to get in, even if you don't qualify at all to get in. I mean, like I said, George W. Bush was
exactly mediocre students, right?
Yeah, at best, he got in.
Yeah.
So with that said, there's a lot of people in the black community, and anybody that from affirmative action, they don't have that legacy admission, the opportunity to do that, because their father, their grandfather, and their grandfather weren't even allowed to be in that school. Forget about affirmative action or legacy. They have no legacy.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you were talking about Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk understands his audience. And I think sometimes even a lot of these guys, they'll bring up a particular point. They'll
Right.
ramble on about it. They might not even believe in their own point, but they
Right.
know how to make millions of dollars. It's the Jerry Springer of politics is basically
Absolutely.
what it is. And you just
Absolutely.
spew out whatever nonsense that will generate
Right.
crazy people listening to this stuff
Right.
and sharing it and loving it and thinking it's the greatest thing ever. So, that's where I go back to say, you're not allowed to say that stuff anymore. But some of the stuff that people say nowadays, they're getting away with it. And quite frankly, some of the stuff that I hear now, you might not have been able to say back in the old
Yeah.
days. But
It's
for some reason now
unbelievable.
you're allowed to say this stuff. We have a guy who is the leader of the Republican Party, the nomination for president, said you can assault women basically and get away with
Mhm.
it because you're a star. I can shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
what president would have been able to say that? If they even said anything, an eighth of that, they would have been out of the race.
Yeah, they're making America great again. Like,
Yeah,
remember that. Like,
right.
and they're trying to take America back to its origin, and that was the origin of America. Like all
Mhm.
this racism and bigotry and misogyny. That's exactly. He didn't just make that up. Like they're really trying to get it back there.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that Republican field,